So, welcome to episode 26 of the Breaking Bio podcast. Today is Thursday, April 4th, and I am Stephen Hamblin from the University of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia. And so we've got our stable of regular co-hosts here with us today, starting with Morgan.
Hi, I'm Morgan Jackson. I'm a grad student, Ph.D. student at the University of Guelph in Ontario, Canada.
Hi, I'm Rafael Maya, Ph.D. student at the University of Akron, Ohio.
We do have a special guest today, and we're joined by Alyssa Stark.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Stark, and I am a Ph.D. student at the University of Akron, also.
So our condolences.
Thanks.
I'm just going to keep ragging on Akron the whole time. I hope you don't mind.
You're welcome to, yes.
Yeah.
I'm from California, so you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, that's an unlikely move. What brought you to California, or to Akron?
Yeah, I've had that question probably 100 times at least here.
I like consistent.
Yeah, but yeah, it was the program, so I came out here for that and moved away from wine country, Sonoma County, Napa Valley.
Wow, that must have been shocking.
Akron.
What was your first winter like?
It actually, Raphael missed it, so I'm a year ahead of Raphael, so I got the worst one the first year that I was here, so it's pretty great. We had, I think, also a hurricane and then a really long winter.
So, Alyssa, you work in Akron and you're working on geckos right now, correct?
Yes.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about the background of your research before we get into your most recent publication here?
Yeah, so yeah, I've been working on geckos. I'm in my 5th year, so I've been doing it now for quite a while. I actually wasn't a herpetologist or anything like that heading into this. And my current work is basically studying gecko adhesion. It's a pretty popular topic these days, and my interest is how they stick in wet surface or in wet environments, on wet surfaces, things like that.
So why is that a topic of such interest?
I think it's kind of catching a lot of interest because it's really basically an adhesive that works underwater now, as we're finding. And that's not an easy thing to create. So it's hard to synthesize an adhesive that works underwater that's more than just a total chemical bond gluing two things together in water. The geckos are great because they're walking in water, so they're reusing their adhesive system over and over again. So you basically kind of have this idea of maybe a synthetic tape that can be used in water or in wet environments of some sort. So.
All right. So yeah. This leads into what you just recently published, right? So you've got a new paper out in PNAS. Surface wettability plays a significant role in gecko adhesion underwater.
Yes.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
So yeah, this actually kind of is the next step after a paper that we got out in August in JEB, Journal of Experimental Biology. So in that one, we actually found that geckos kind of suck on wet surfaces. And that really didn't sort of make sense because a lot of them live in tropical environments. So we kind of, rather than stopping there, decided to move ahead and actually do something that our field doesn't quite do as often, which is going back to the natural biology of the animal and considering what they're actually probably sticking to, which is, probably leaves and plant structures in their natural environment. And that's probably what's actually getting wet when they're trying to use their adhesive system. So so we thought about it in that sort of way, and now instead of just testing glass, a man-made surface that's hydrophilic, we tested a bunch of surfaces that ranged in wettability, so the ability to have water beat up or roll off of them. And we found when the surface is hydrophobic, like a plant, like a leaf, they can stick just as well as if they were sticking to something that's dry. So that's pretty exciting. That means basically depending on the surface, they can stick underwater just as well as when it's a dry surface.
So hydrophobic being it repels water.
Yes, yeah.
So you're saying that they stick to surfaces that repel water as well as if they're dry?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's interesting that you say that you're bringing back to the biology of things, because like a lot of these studies kind of either examine like just the toe of a gecko sticking to the glass, right, or just a little tiny seeding, which is the little thing that actually sticks, and like, ignore these other things, right?
Yeah. I say that with like some hesitation because the original field actually was all natural biology, really. You know, people going out noticing these lizards sticking and stuff, and making observations, doing even behavioral stuff out in the field. But then it kind of went away because we couldn't really figure out, or they couldn't figure out how they were sticking. And so the field kind of broke open in 2000 when a paper came out explaining how they were actually sticking. And then it got really, really focused. It got focused on those little tiny hairs, on patches of those hairs. And so we're kind of trying to bring it back to the whole animal again, which has been going well, but I think it did take a little bit for us to kind of break into the field using that approach, which was definitely not as popular when we started doing gecko stuff.
So while you're doing this, now correct me if I'm wrong because this is totally too many bones for me. But you guys pretty much tied a harness onto your gecko, stuck them to something, and then tried to pull them off of it?
Exactly.
Oh yeah. Do you have a picture of this, or?
Yeah.
I do.
What does a gecko in a harness look like? And is it as adorable as it sounds?
Generally, it's actually not. It's usually very angry. There's thrashing and barking involved.
So less like a poodle and more like the little toddlers you see at the mall with their parents hanging them on a leash.
Yeah, except the toddlers can't bite as hard.
Oh.
And hopefully they don't spray poop at you.
Well, I have seen some that are probably controversial.
That's possible. Yeah.
And this sounds like a really awesome work environment with things biting you and shitting all over you.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. Yeah, I think during the course of these experiments, at least on one day, I got shit on twice in a row, just in one experimental day. So that was pretty awesome. Yeah.
I'm sorry, we shouldn't laugh at your pain, but I'm just loving the fact that a good day means the geckos didn't shit on you.
Totally. It's so nice.
You got to picture how happy the gecko is, because not only he has a harness tied to it, he's being stuck in the water.
Yeah.
So all kinds of joy.
Yeah. Our first experiment, we were trying to relate it to a study that was done with just the hairs on the toe. So I don't know why they did it, but they put the hairs in water for an hour and a half. And so we were like, okay, we'll do that with the gecko. We'll totally repeat the procedure, but with the whole animal. And that was just really a great 2 summers to do of that, because they didn't like it so much.
Are geckos, are they natural swimmers? Are they?
Unfortunately, I do know the answer to that. I shouldn't. But we have had some occasions where that has occurred, and it turns out they are good at swimming, just not good at the direction. So they, at least in my experiment, they swim downwards underwater and not up. So they look like an alligator or a crocodile, but just go in the wrong direction.
Wow.
So do you have to rescue them? Do you have like little, rescue boys nearby that you have to toss in to grab these geckos that are essentially sinking?
Actually, I have done something like that, yes.
Oh, it's Gecko Baywatch.
So I don't want to put my hand in there and then them bite it while they're swimming. So yeah, I have tossed little things in and tried to. Yeah.
I love that you are from California.
Really?
I'm just imagining lifeguards racing across the beach to get the geckos.
Yes, totally. Actually, my undergraduates during their first study where they had to sit for an hour and a half in water, we did call it lifeguard duty because I was kind of concerned that like their head would go underwater. So yeah, I would have an undergraduate go in, they'd be studying, doing their notes for class, and just lifeguarding.
Tell the truth. You know, it's been a long day. The gecko shit on you 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
You're sitting there with it in its harness. You're thinking, well, I could just push the head down.
Yeah. Yes.
It needs the lesson.
Totally. Yeah, when I came to the lab, there was a timeout jar. And I didn't know what that meant until I started working in the lab with the geckos. So, yeah.
Is the timeout for you guys or for the geckos?
It's gecko-sized.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you just shove them in the jar.
Apparently that's what happened. Yeah, before I came. So with the first set of experiments, my advisor did. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Boy, you don't get these kind of questions on a regular news show, huh?
No, definitely not.
This is the story behind the story. This is what everybody wish they got.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is inside the actor's studio for shitting geckos.
Totally.
Exactly.
Totally. I know. Most people are very interested in the harness. I've had people ask me where they can buy the harness, where we purchased it, things like that. And really, it's just a ribbon from the craft store. So, you know, it's regular old biology. You duct tape things and buy ribbons, and you know, you make.
So it's
it work.
a gift wrap gecko. That's
It
even
totally
better.
is. Yeah, and actually they come in blue and pink. Yeah.
Reinforcing gender stereotypes. There we go.
Totally. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The meanest one we always put in pink, just to, you know, enforce.
You know, I don't actually.
Mind fuck on the side for him.
Oh, okay. There's the title of this episode: "Mind Fucking Geckos."
Totally is.
All right.
So
You know, I didn't.
we're kind of kidding about the story behind the story, but you're actually getting quite a bit of popular media attention for your work with geckos. So I think this stuff has been on. I just saw today it was posted on the Smithsonian's news site, and then I think you were on National Geographic's news site as well, and you've previously been on BBC Nature and a variety of places that none of us are ever going to get. So
That's a screw you.
Yeah,
exactly.
Thanks.
So what's it like dealing with real media as opposed to us?
It's actually interesting. Yeah, I had never had much experience with it before. I used to work with seals and sea lions, so I did get a little bit of press, pictures at least, no interviews for that. But yeah, for this stuff, it's definitely different. I mean, a lot of it is similar questions, but yeah, you do occasionally get, the off-the-wall questions. I think National Geographic.
Sorry, that was a very good pun on your behalf there.
But yeah, National Geographic actually has added a paragraph about the gecko poop, and I wasn't expecting her to add that. She said she had a personal science blog that she was interested in any strange stories I had, so of course I share the obvious one, and now it's on National Geographic. So there you go.
Sweet.
So you've got a fair bit of experience working with what we could call charismatic species at this point, then.
Definitely, yeah.
What kind of challenges come with that? Like, do you just get tired of people going on about gecko geckos, or you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I think, I think a lot of people want them to be named and things like that, which you kind of don't pay attention to until they start asking you that. So what's this one's name? And, originally I've worked in places where, you're not supposed to name any of your, experimental animals. And ours have slowly gotten named over the years. But they don't all have names. So it's almost embarrassing if somebody asks me what the name is of a gecko that I'm holding, and in cases I've made it up on the spot because I could see like it will crush them if they don't have a name. If I just say this is number 13. So I'm like, this is Sally.
Why is her harness blue if her name's Sally?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you get that with the seals?
Yeah, the seals also, people love naming seals. And where I worked, we weren't allowed to name them after any copyrighted material. So you can't name it like Cinderella or anything that can be copyrighted. So that would really piss people off because their little toddler, wants to name it, Sleeping Beauty, and we can't do that. So, or if they die, you also don't want to name it after yourself because it was a rescue center, so not all of them are going to make it, and then it's bad when, Raphael died.
We wouldn't be too upset around here, really.
Oh.
Well, we could get the seal. At least they'd get the names right.
That's true.
Oh, that was horrible. Took me a while to get that one.
Like usual.
Oh, I feel bad for ragging on Raphael. Of
I
course,
don't.
if it makes you feel better, he can tell you all about the time I forgot to press record.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That was pretty good too.
That's awesome.
You can go back and watch it, but you can't.
Oh, it's all in the mind.
So, trying to get us back on track a little bit here. But, so, one of the reasons that people are interested in gecko adhesion, gecko stickiness, is of course trying to mimic it, right? Trying to make a material that acts and works like the gecko feet do. So. Yeah. Pretend I don't know the answer to this, but is that something that you or your lab are doing, and how have they had any success in this?
That's a great question, Raphael. Yes, as a matter of fact. So yeah, actually, the program that we're both in is an integrated program. So I actually have, and I'm probably really integrated. I have 2 advisors. So I have one in biology and I have one in polymer science. And so my Ph.D. is supposed to integrate both fields. So yeah, I'm in basically 2 different labs. I go to 2 different lab meetings. It's great, it's fun. But the good part is, when I came here, they had already made a gecko tape out of carbon nanotubes in my polymers lab. So my polymers advisor and my lab mates there had. And so now the cool thing about the people in that lab is that they're not totally fixated on just coming up with the newest, best synthetic adhesive without realizing the importance of the natural system and how we can learn more from that. So their tape works great. It works better than the gecko, in fact, but it does still have some major limitations. And so rather than just pushing forward and making another synthetic and another one, they're actually helping us figure out the questions with the actual whole animal as well, so that we can go back and relate it to the synthetics in the future. So that's the neat part about this collaboration, is it really does go both ways. They're also authors on this paper, and I think that's why this paper is kind of interesting as well. Is it's not just us testing geckos on on different surfaces and having them poop all over us. It's also like applying. I know. I shouldn't say poop. It makes everybody giggle. But it's actually, we're able to then create a thermodynamic model based on what we think these hairs are doing in water, and that's, what they're great at. And so we kind of were able to push and pull a bit to understand what's going on in the biology, relate it back to to a synthetic, all that great, exciting stuff that people are. That's why people are excited about this. It's really interesting animals, and there's applications that are really tangible for people to understand.
I seem to recall in the paper, and I'm sorry because I can't find it right now, but you briefly mentioned some of the evolutionary implications of some of these adhesive stuff. And I think you said that it arose multiple times?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so geckos, and so I'm not an evolutionary biologist at all, so bear with me. Okay. Okay, good. But yeah, so toe pads have evolved in the gecko lineage multiple times, and actually in 2 other types of lizards in general as well. And I just read a paper on chameleons. Apparently they have adhesive hairs as well, kind of, on their tails and their toes. So it's not, the scales of reptiles kind of are bumpy, and so it sort of makes sense that these little bumps, these little microstructures can turn into hair-like structures and then further, kind of evolve into these complex structures. But yeah, there's geckos that don't have hairs. There's geckos that have some hairs. There's geckos that have tons of hairs. We have some that have lost toes over evolutionary time for whatever reason. There's a group of geckos that have no legs. So, yeah, they're it's just a crazy group, to be working with, because apparently, these little hairs are something that they can kind of give or take, and have or not have.
So the ones without legs, do they stick to anything, or do they just kind of squirm somewhere?
That would be more just like peel them off.
Yeah, exactly. They just like fall. They kind of look like snakes, if to a layman, really. They kind of look like, snake-like. They have no arms and legs.
Cool.
Kind of creepy looking. Yeah.
So I think there was something published not too long ago. Again, I'm coming at it from an insect point of view, where there was actually a beetle that was found that can walk underwater. So I think it had suction-y pad kind of thing. So is this kind of similar phenomenon, or is it totally different physics on how these things are happening, or is it just convergent evolution sort of thing?
Yeah, so that's actually really great. So yeah, insects have these little hairs as well, and they have different structures of these hairs, but a lot of them use glues or secretions as well, so the hairs are kind of sticky because of that. Geckos are different because they are a dry adhesive, so it really is just those hairs that are making contact. We recently found that they also have lipids on or in these hairs. We don't really know what's going on with the lipids yet, but there's no obvious secretions like the insects. But yeah, the beetle paper where they're walking underwater, the part that is similar is that we also see this bubble happening. So when they were looking at the beetles, they noticed kind of a bubble around their feet as they walked, and then they took an image underneath and saw that it was basically kind of a dry patch of air around their feet making dry contact. And we did the same thing, and we saw that with hydrophobic surfaces as well. So we're thinking, the same idea, as long as their toes stay dry and make that dry contact, they're going to have the same adhesive strength as if they were in a dry, on a dry surface. Hello.
And here comes Heidi.
Sorry.
Here for the last 5 minutes. Awesome. One last thing I want to cover here, because we're coming up to the end of our time, unfortunately. But so you, in the pre-show, if that's what we're going to call that train wreck,
I like that.
You mentioned that you're not really big into social media yet.
Yeah.
You're trying to get more into it.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Has it been is it something that you've been just disinterested in, or afraid of, or now you're interested?
Yeah. So So I feel like overall I've come to everything late. So I actually only went to a full, university for the last 2 years of my undergraduate education. I was at a junior college before that. So I feel like I'm always kind of behind, on knowing, my field and research and all of this. So I'm always kind of catching up. And I think some of, what I need to catch up on is this social aspect, the social media stuff that's going on. I have a Facebook account, and now I'm, following interesting sites on it and realizing that I probably should, there's other ways to do that than Facebook that are probably a lot more conducive to actually reading what you want to read and not stupid shit from people in high school. But so I'm like moving that direction, but I have like no idea how Twitter works at all. So I'm kind of like concerned about that. Like, I don't know what the hashtag things mean or anything. And now it's kind of a little late to be asking because it sounds really dumb that I don't know that.
Yeah.
I don't think
No
that's
way.
true.
No,
Okay.
You can always jump in.
Okay, good.
Steven's still figuring it out.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not that hard. Okay, that's good. And I think some of it too is Californian. Like, we are very we're very careful about what we say and what we put out. And so I've always been very guarded about that. And not that you can tell in this, episode, but yeah, I think we kind of have this innate, like, we're very PC. We don't want to, offend anyone. And so it does take a little bit to get out of that shell, I think, as well. So
That
You
is
don't
the
have
last
to be
thing I
offensive.
would.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, you don't have to be offensive on Twitter.
that's
Yeah.
Just with
You can be.
Maureen.
You can.
I wanted to ask, do you have any pet geckos at home?
That is a good one. So I have a handful of undergraduate students that are desperately working on resolving that issue, but no, I don't. But I have many tanks that have been given to me over the years for this phantom gecko that I will have one day. But as I tell them, I have like 50 that are my pets that I have to take care of every day here, and taking care of another one right now is really not on my agenda.
So you're just looking for a cat.
Yeah. No pets right now. But I did have pet geckos actually before I came here, ironically, and before I knew what I was doing. I even had a steering wheel cover, so there's definitely some foreshadowing in my past. And a lot of geckos do make good pets, surprisingly. So, yeah.
Are your geckos in the lab now, or what?
There's actually, it's weird. There's certain species that are better at being pets than others. So we have a couple of those. Yeah, the crested.
geckos are good.
Yeah, those guys are super cute. They don't poop on you. You can pet them. All good things. They don't bite you.
either.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we've got 3 of those guys in the lab, and then a good number of really mean ones.
All right. Well, it seems we've come full circle to non-pooping geckos.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good place to call a halt. Alyssa, do you have a website people should go to, or?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. It's a ridiculously long name.
Oh, right. Yeah, I see it here.
Yeah.
We'll put a link in the posting for this.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
Because I'm not saying that on air.
No.
But so if you want to learn more about the podcast, you can find us at breakingbio.com, as always. And you can email us at breakingbio@gmail.com if you want to reach out. And so we'd like to thank Alyssa for coming on today and giving us the good word on geckos. And we'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks for joining us for episode 26. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye. Thanks.